Hey guys, welcome back to the ocean. Today is the day. It's the biggest day. I'm Theory Chum. This is Chum. Today we are going to tell you guys what is FNAF World. That's right. I'm solving the wackiest, zaniest game. And I'm telling you, I feel like there is no other answer of what I'm going to show you. So I got myself a list on how I'm going to go through everything. We're going to go through it together. And if you pay attention, if you watch this whole video, you get to the end, if you have questions that you ask, you will be able to learn what FNAF World is as well. And I'm telling you, these things are backed up by the books, the games, everything. So get ready, buckle up, because here we go. Time to learn some FNAF World. The first thing we're going to start with is the continuity of FNAF. Where does FNAF World take place on the time? Is it a part of the games? Is it a part of the Silver Eyes? Is it a part of the books? Is it its own thing? We got an answer. We have for sure confirmation. A lot of people just haven't realized what it was. Let me take you back to the universe where it's called two things, right? The same Fredbear cannot be in the same space and time as himself. So it's very, very, very particular to understand. We're looking at an area of space and an area of time. Okay? With this, we are to understand, if we look at the map, that this is the crying child's brain. I'm going to get into why it looks a little funky a little later in the video. But for now, we are to expect that if this is a crying child's brain, the manifestations inside of it are going to be the crying child, such as the Fredbear being the crying child, is that's what the crying child associated. That was his friend that reassured him and comforted him throughout all kids. So we know that the crying child is the Fredbear. Which is stating Fredbear flesh is in the same space and the same time as you, the player character. Now, if this was a separate continuity, let's go ahead and take a look at time, right? This right here is called the time traveling paradox. It's also commonly referred to as the origin paradox. And the reason being that if you go back or forth in time to find yourself, on either way, the original you and the you that you meet will no longer exist. Because by meeting yourself, you're changing everything that happened that led to your origin. Which means the origin point of you going to end up at time traveling or whatever does not exist. That is why you cannot exist in the same place at the same time. Well, how do we know what this tells us about continuity? So if we're looking at the crying child, the FNAF 4 game, we understand that's who we are supposed to be playing inside of the brain as. That means FNAF World is inhabiting the exact same space and, which is important, it's not space or time, it's space and the exact same time. With the space being talked about, that is the whole amount of area, no matter how far it goes out in the universe, whether it's infinite or whatnot, that is stuck to one timeline that this area follows. So this is going to be the game's timeline because it's the crying child of FNAF 4. So if it's in the same space and time as the FNAF 4 game, it has to be in the continuity. This is how Scott made FNAF World canon and why it's part of the game's continuity. There is no other answer to this. FNAF World, having the time traveler paradox, what is telling us confirmedly that FNAF World takes place inside of the game's continuity. Yeah. What I said about this being in the crying child's brain, we're going to go over it next. We're going to talk about the location and the map. I'll throw the map on up here real quick. It's probably going to face. So the map kind of looks like a brain with this extra part. It has the brain stem, comes out. This part of the brain also has an extra part. And then it goes pretty normal, like the rest of the brain. Right? Kind of looks like this. People are like, well, that's not a brain, because the brain doesn't have these little flanges sticking off. But just like you're seeing here, this is a two-dimensional escape. I can't fall that on here. Like, no matter what I do, I can't fall inwards. I can't draw it down because it's a flat 2D representation. And the same is for the map canyon. The map is also a flat 2D representation. But this lobe over here and this lobe over here, which is the temporal and the occipital lobes, on these phalanges, we don't have the continuation of that. Because if we were to look at a map, how it actually, these are caves. And you actually see like ladders and stuff going down in the cave. So this isn't south of the brain. This is in the depths beneath these lobes. These are the depths of these lobes, which makes sense because agony is harnessed in memory, and memory is harnessed in what you see, which is what both of these lobes are for. You see, you remember, that infects, influences everything you're seeing and going. So that explains why we have those extra little flanges on the bottom of the occipital and the temporal lobes. And the FNAF World is meant to be the crying child's brain. But here's the thing. That brain contains more than one thing. We're going to get to the physics of that today, right? So, too long, didn't watch my other videos. We're going to go into one thing. You can either take my word for it, or you can go watch the video, or you can just understand. Agony has to do with one word, and that one word is so important. Particle. Whether it's in a wave, like whenever it's toxic and floating about, or it's conducted to an animatronic, it has particles. Now, whenever these particles are conducted, they follow a current. So what we're seeing is agony flowing through the crying child's brain. Whenever the agony flows through the crying child's brain, it's tracing. The map is tracing path that the agony is following. Just to be clear, we know that the agony is traveling through the brain because this isn't the only time we see this. It's just the first time. If you look at the man from 1280, whenever the nurse is talking about Afton and Andrew fighting in his brain, you can see on a scan that the currents are traveling through the brain and even to the point where they're tormenting. So this agony particles floating all around. That agony that's making the brain is charging us. But we're still not to the bread and butter what exactly is going on. For that, that's what we're getting into right now. Sure, you've heard the expression, energy cannot be created or destroyed. This is true to a point. However, physicists have found something called antimatter. For every single particle that exists, it has an antiparticle. Yeah. Anytime a particle and an antiparticle clash, whenever E is equal to or more than one, it's going to create a new particle. And we know this is how it works because if this didn't happen, our whole world would be nothing but light and gas and photons just completely converting over and over again. Nothing would combine, nothing would collide, whole bright light. Nothing would be made because there wouldn't be any creation. For this, I'm going to have Neil deGrasse Tyson yet again back up what I have to say.
Produce antimatter all the time in the laboratory. How do you make matter? Get a pocket of energy that is enough so that if you converted that energy back to matter, you can make an entire particle out of it.
Okay.
Okay? So in other words, we are illuminated by lights, stage lights, literally.
Right. Exactly, yeah.
All right. Those photons are visible light.
Absolutely.
If you say, well, there's an energy of a visible light photon, let me convert it, uses equals mc squared, see how much mass that would get me. If I converted it into matter, there is no particle light enough for visible light to turn into.
Got you.
This is a very important fact. I don't want to move forward until I hear that you understand this.
So here's the deal. But there's no... Say that again. I just got to get it.
Okay. We've got photons moving through the air.
Right.
Okay, here they go.
They're kissing me right now.
There they are. Okay, grab one of them and say, can you be a particle? A matter particle? Well, let's find out. How much energy do you have, Mr. Photon, Madam Photon? Plug that into the equals mc squared formula. See how much mass equivalent it is. If that mass equivalent is below the lowest mass particle, it will never make a particle. It'll just travel through the universe forever. If you have a photon that has enough energy so that when you plugged it into this formula, you have enough mass to make a particle, it can spontaneously turn into matter.
Damn!
Yeah. Yes. Spontaneously.
That's crazy.
Wait. So now, because if I'm going to make matter, if I'm going to make like a electron,
right,
I can't just make an electron out of energy because I started out with no net charge.
Right.
I started out with no net particles. So if I'm going to make particles, they have to add up to nothing. Okay? So if I don't have a charge to begin with, if I make an electron, you damn sure I better make a positron.
Right.
So the positive cancels the negative. If I'm going to make a matter particle, you damn sure I got to make an antimatter particle because matter and antimatter cancel out.
Look at that.
By the way, if it's just sitting there and it makes a pair and the electron goes off in this direction, where does the positron have to go?
The other direction.
The exact opposite direction.
Right.
So that
So now that we've got that, got Neil telling us, this stuff has to be a particle, it has to have an antiparticle. We're going to go to his co-host on the show because they make a very startling statement, right? Whenever this happens, each particle having an antiparticle, there's a whole anti-universe.
all the quarks have fractional charges.
Okay.
They have to because a proton has a full charge of +1.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
If you made of 3 particles, each of them has to have a fraction of a charge.
All right.
Okay? It adds up to +1 for the proton, and it adds up to 0
Zero
for the neutron.
neutron.
Okay?
Gotcha.
How do I annihilate the neutron? You get the anti-neutron that's made of anti-quarks.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
So wait a minute.
Right, so
For antimatter, does every particle in the universe have like an opposite
Yes.
particle?
Yes.
Holy
Yes.
crap.
Yes. Yes.
So-
That's what's it's profound. It is profound.
So basically, there is an actual opposite world. There's an actual opposite world. There's an opposite universe.
In that universe that's made of these antiparticles work very particularly with the particle they're at. Quantum entanglement is something that happens when two separate particles cross and their lives and everything that they depend on each other. Like if something happens to one particle, it's going to happen to another. Antimatter particles, they're not actually entangled, but they act by the same laws of entanglement because they're created together. One creates the other, one's part of it. So these are connected. So what's going to happen is anything that the particle does, its antiparticle is going to mirror it. And you're asking me, why is this so important here? Why did you bring us here to talk about mirrored particles, antiparticles, and all of this stuff? So listen here. Agony comes from particles, which means Freddy also has to have antiparticles. You know, if you have a universe of antiparticles and they mirror everything the particles do, that mirrored universe has a name in a lot of fiction, and it's just not FNAF. You know, like this. Don't get me first with copyright. It is called FNAFs. Yes, boys. FNAF World are the antiparticles of the crying child's memory of the agony that's flowing in his brain after he was bit in a coma. That they're being influenced by the things he watched, which is Fazbear and Friends on TV, and that's why it's so kiddie. That's why it's all this other thing. And the reason why it's called the flip side, reason why if anything happens in the real world, it affects them too, is because they're connected by antimatter laws. And that's where we get that's why they call it in the game the flip side. Because it's the antiparticle, it's the mirrored universe. The mirrored universe is affected by the crying child's memory. His memories are influenced by the Raspberry Friends TV show and stuff like that. Oh, buddy. Oh, my goodness. You thought that was it? Did you think that was it? You think I was just going to drop this bomb on you and be like, yeah, great job, thanks for coming out to the ocean? No. I got more. I'm not done with FNAF World. I told you by the end of this video, you're going to know and make sense of FNAF World. The most nonsense game in history. So we are not done here. So agony being particles. You've seen in my other videos where again, you can take my word for it. They move at the speed of light. Particles move at the speed of light. They are relative to time, which means at the speed of light, they do not experience time. And we went through this on the Into the Pit video, Return to the Photons I did. That's going to be on the screen too. So, when it's relative to time and it does not experience time, just like with Into the Pit, Crying Child's agony doesn't experience time either. Let's go ahead and look at this. The first thing we're going to bring up is the prototype. This is significant because, like, on the bottom of the Lamrock Freddy, we see it's called the prototype. And then we have the prototype enemy in FNAF World. So the fact that Lamrock Freddy exists in the future, but we're still getting a prototype in FNAF World, is just showing, first off, the mimic and stuff was planned for FNAF. And then secondly, Lamrock Freddy was seen by the crying child ahead of time. You're like, oh, that can't be the case. But this isn't the only time this happens. Because we also have the one, the only Tangle. I think it also should be mentioned that Tangle also looks like a version of Mangle, which lines up with the Blob and Mangle both having multiple sources of patent. I'm going to do a Mangle video later on. Pretty much. Mangle speaks in double speak, which means they talk about two different things at the same time. In this case, they're talking about acknowledging themselves. For instance, in the AR, Mangle says, in the same line, you're a stranger, and then turns and says, you're my victim. There's all parts, all the lines, the pieces coming together, being put together and stuff like that. Working up a sweat. So just like Into the Pit, whenever Oswald did like the chip brow back on the UTI days, anything like that, the FNAF World, the agony of the Crying Child's brain is also affected so the Crying Child can see things across time. We can look at Mr. Coffee. He also has an attack called Megavirus. And as we know in Security Breach, the Mimic program is a megavirus. Or it's a virus. Mega is subjective. If it's an adjective, you can choose if you want to think. Whenever this attack lands, it lands these little squares. These squares, when they're shown in like a digital aspect, are to show characters familiar to the program. Some of y'all may have had this happen. Where like if you have an Android friend and you have a friend on an iPhone, and you try to send back and forth emojis that the other person doesn't have, it comes up as like that little box. And even if this isn't what it is, those boxes are just like the shape that the mimic uses to communicate. There's also the mimic ball, which actually brings out something that copies all the attacks. And it's a virtue of Freddy. Little green guy that comes out and throws the attack out. So it's mimicking the attack. We're getting mimic stuff in FNAF World. And the reason being is because this agony is all played up time. So just like we have Into the Pit, we got Into the TV, where the Crying Child is being influenced by the TV shows he watched. He also experiences time travel while he's in the coma. So let's go over there again one more time. What is FNAF World? FNAF World is one. It's the near antiparticle universe, the game. Agony, like Crying Child mom. It's a nexus point, which is a point where anything important happens. And that important part is going to be the pi of 83, which in turn leads down to everything on the timeline. Yeah. Cannon costs a noodle. That's FNAF World, my guys. To a T. Doesn't experience time. It's a mere antiparticle universe. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Remember, man, if someone asks, what do you think FNAF is? FNAF World is. You know the answer. You're able to do it. You're able to tell them it's an antiparticle mirrored universe that doesn't experience time like Into the Pit. That's caused by the crime child being influenced by Fazbear and friends after he's dead. This is the Comos. Thank you guys for coming out and watching the videos. Please put this out. Share it, share it, share it, share it, share it, share it anywhere, share it everywhere. Comment down, pump that algorithm in the comments. Let the world know what FNAF World is. The world needs FNAF World. The world needs the answer. And this is it. I'm saying this whole article. All of this lines up with everything we've been doing. All of this lines up with the physics we've been doing. All of this lines up with things people haven't taken into consideration. This is the answer. If you liked what you saw today, go ahead and smash that like button. Don't forget to slam your finger on over to the subscribe button. Join us in the ocean next time. I'm really appreciative. This is Fairy Tom swimming in the ocean.